Hey, how's it going? It's Dylan from the King Realty Group. Hope you're having a great day today. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We're in June, guys, and so we're removing the Toronto real estate numbers of May 2019. And we're going to see how it compares to last year and talking about some of the trends that we're also experiencing here in our Toronto real estate market. If you're interested in real estate and you want to have a pulse on what's going on in the marketplace, a lot of things are changing right now, and this is the video for you. So here we go. All right, guys, thanks again for joining in. I want to first and foremost congratulate the Toronto Raptors for winning the championship, guys. The last time we actually did a video, we were talking about the fact that they were in the playoffs and they were doing really well. And guess what? We ended up going against Golden State. We ended up beating them in 6 games, so 6 in the 6. And we actually got that championship. Congrats to the Raptors. I'm a huge fan, and I'm excited to see what happens over this next summer. Hopefully Kawhi stays, and hopefully we get a chance to get the second ring. So let's see how it goes. Having said that, I also want to apologize because I actually moved offices. If you notice in the background, we have a window now. In the past, we were always in this enclosed room where I did not have an idea what's going on in the world. But now, this is definitely a better situation. The only problem is that I have this glare, and I'm going to have to figure out some sort of lighting in front of me for the future videos. But hopefully, at least you can hear me, and at least you can see something. And I don't know if this means King Realty is moving up in the world here, having a window, but maybe the next spot is the corner office with, and maybe I'm not sharing it with somebody. So thanks so much again for joining in, guys. What we're doing today is we're reviewing the Toronto Real Estate Board numbers. We normally take a look at the GTA average price point. In addition, we take a look at detached, semis, and condos as well. And did I miss something there? Semis, townhouses is also something that we review. And the other thing as well is we look at smaller markets. We look at Toronto, we look at Durham, we look at York region, we look at Peel region, just to give you a macro sense of what's going on in those areas, especially if obviously you're looking in those areas to purchase or sell homes. Having said that, something that we've added over the last couple of videos and email communications is our Open Nation report. So below you have links to all the Toronto real estate board numbers. You're going to have a report from Urban Nation, which really breaks down in clear picture of what's going on over the last little while and some trends in our marketplace. And so this is the stuff we're providing you today. Now, we're going to get right into it, guys. Let's take a look at the Toronto real estate board numbers for the month of May and how we compare to last year. And here we go. So as you see here, guys, we have a GTA average price point of $838,540. That is up 3.6% from last year. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that later on and what impact that is, because we've been kind of in that 0 to 2% range for quite a while now. And we've now broken past 2% and we're at 3.6, which is really, really encouraging, really, really good. And if you notice, all the other housing types have also increased as well. So detached homes here, we're at 1,042,218, and we're at 1.1 in the detached segment, which is amazing, something we haven't really seen in the last little while. I know it's a pretty flat growth, but still better than nothing. That's definitely for sure. Now, semi-detaches, we're at 827,250. That's up 1.9%. We have townhouses as well at 665,967 at up 3.2%. And we have condo apartments, guys, who have been pretty strong throughout at 590,876, up 4.9%. Now, one thing I wanted to point out to you guys, if you look at this screen here, look at the difference between the condo and townhouse pricing. You're noticing more and more every single month that condo prices are getting closer and closer to townhome prices. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in this video, and the fact that we're going to see probably an increase in activity with townhomes just because of that similarity in price. Anybody in that price range, you can kind of bump up from a condo into a townhouse. A lot of people are doing that nowadays. So let's keep an eye on that. Continuing on, guys, let's take a look at our sales numbers. So I'll put that up on the screen here. We have actually 9,989 sales, just shy of 10,000 sales in a month, which is really, really great for the month of May. Still slightly below the 10-year average, but definitely a lot more sales activity versus the last couple of years. And you see the growth here, it's 18.9% from last year. And so we have 2 months now in a row of double-digit growth in sales, which means that people are out there buying homes. Things are moving in our marketplace, and that's a very, very good sign that we're maybe moving past the stabilization period that we had when we had a little bit of an up and down after the housing policies, and we're moving into a position of growth. Okay, so that's something I'm going to talk about a little bit later as well. But this is one of the factors that we look at to kind of indicate that may be going on. Continuing, guys, let's take a look at our months of inventory. That gives us a bit of an idea of whether we're in a buyer or seller market. Now we're looking at macro regions here. I can always dive deep into particular pockets within Durham, within Toronto, within Peel, for example, that may have different numbers. In addition to that, we also have different housing segments. So if you're looking for a detached home, the months of inventory of a detached home versus a condo apartment is going to be very different. Condos have a very tight market conditions right now, and so the months of inventory is a lot lower than a detached home. Right now we're looking at an average of all housing types, and so this is why I say if you have a particular question, or if you have a particular interest in one particular area, or you have a home in a certain area as well, we want to dive deep in what's going in that local market, because that's very different than these macro numbers. Another thing you can do is you can download our urbanation report, which is the link below, and that kind of breaks things down by housing type and by different region as well. And even in Toronto, it splits it up into central, west, and east Toronto, because obviously Toronto's pretty big, and definitely what's going on in the east end versus the west end and the central is all going to be very different. Okay, so I just want to give you that quick disclaimer before we look at these numbers. So let's pop it up though. My apologies, and let's take a look at the months of inventory for the region of Toronto. So we have on average 1.62 months of inventory and about 62% sales to active listing ratio. Below, I give you a little bit of a guide of what that means. It seemingly means that we're above 50% sales to active listing, which is technically means that we're in a seller market in most of Toronto. And I would say that's true for a majority of areas of Toronto and the different housing types as well. If you are a seller, likely, depending on where you live, you can have a really good outcome when you sell your house. I can tell you on the East End, for example, bidding wars all day long for the whole entire year, okay, and people are selling their homes. So that's great for Toronto. Looking at Durham as well, we have again, tilting in the favor of sellers, it seems, at 1.97 months of inventory and 51 sales to active listing ratio. Again, really depends on the type of house you have, where exactly in Durham you live. But overall, if you do the right things, you price properties correctly, you should be able to sell your property as well. Looking at Peel region, guys, we're at 1.5 months of inventory, so actually even tighter than the Toronto and Durham regions. It's the tightest market that we see right now. So that's Mississauga, Brampton, for example. And I can attest to that because I've gone out into those areas with clients, and it's a little tough. We have a listing right now actually at 117 Bristol. It's very entry-level pricing at 439. In one day, we've had, I don't even know how many showings. We got an offer right away. So that kind of goes to show you that if you're in an entry level, if you're in Peel region, those things are flying off the shelves, it seems. Okay, so 67% sales to active listing ratio definitely means that we're favoring sellers out there. But again, all really depends on the housing, the housing type that you have in the particular region you're in. York region, guys, we're at 3.34 months of inventory, which is a lot better than what we've seen in the past. I've seen that number before. I've seen that number be 5 months of inventory not too long ago. And so it being in 3, that's actually good. It's still somewhat in a buyer market, meaning that if you go out there as a buyer, you should be able to negotiate some deals, maybe get some property at a good rate and be able to have a little bit of a power on the buyer side. 30% sales to active listing ratio. So again, that is true for York region. And when we're talking about the 905, you might see some news reports saying the 905 is decreasing in price. It's likely because of York region mostly. So we're talking Richmond Hill, Aurora, Newmarket, all those areas. If you're looking out there, you might be able to get some sort of a deal, all depending on what you're looking for. Okay, so those are months of inventory, guys, and sales to active listing ratios. Again, below is a little bit of a guide to give you an idea of what those mean. And I would say that if you need to look at more close picture of your particular housing type, say you're a detached house and you live in Toronto East, you want to download our urbanation report below because you can kind of see what the numbers look like for that particular region. Okay. Best thing to do though, if you really want to know, is give us a quick reply to this email here or get in contact with us 647-931-1313, and we'll answer your questions, of course. Okay, so now we move on to my favorite part of the video. It's really just talking about some of the key items here, key takeaways, and a little bit of a summary of what we kind of looked at with these numbers. One of the things that we note for sure is the double-digit sales and growth. So that's 2 months in a row now that we have more or less 19% growth in sales, and that's really good. That means that there's activity in our marketplace. People are selling and people are buying homes, so it's very good. Sales have increased 11% actually from April 2019. So this is a month-to-month growth that hasn't been seen since 2014, meaning that the sales that we had in April, it's gone up 11% from April to May this year. That hasn't been since 2014. that means that a lot of people are out there buying homes and selling homes in our marketplace, and that's encouraging because we're moving into a growth phase, in my opinion. Okay. Now, even though we've had that sales growth over the last, that sale growth, that 19% from last year and 11% from last month, still our 3-month trend tells us that we're a little bit under our 10-year average, just slightly at 3% under our 10-year average for the sales in the month of May. So sometimes you gotta kind of look at a bigger picture versus what happened versus last year. Last year our sales were pretty down, but yet we got up 18%. So it seems like, oh man, people are selling a lot of homes. But if we look at our 10-year average, we're actually 3% below that average for the month of May. So we're kind of getting back to where we should be, and it's not as crazy that increase as it seems when you look at that stat, right? So at the end of the day, what drove that sales growth? It's mostly demand driven. The sales has definitely outpaced the increase of new listings, which is gonna, and if that continues, it's gonna definitely create an environment of pressure on prices. There's not as many listings, but there's a lot of sales. And that normally increases and pushes up prices. So we're going to take a look over the next few months if that's the case. But that's something that we're also noting as well. One thing that we're looking at as well is resale prices have grown 3.6%. This is actually one of the strongest increase in average price point in the last 9 months, if you can believe that. We've pretty much been stuck in that flat range of 0 to 2% growth, but we're now at 3.6. We'll see what happens in the month of June, and if that trend continues. Hopefully it does, right? That anybody who owns a property is definitely going to be happy to hear that prices are on average beginning to increase for sure. I just want to also note that the average price now, we've had 12 months of average price increases year over year, which is great because it shows us that market has stabilized and we're kind of moving away from that stabilization into a growth phase. Condo prices, guys, I just want to talk a little bit about that. I talked earlier that it's becoming closer and closer to a townhouse price. If you can believe it, condos have actually increased in price 43% in the last 3 years. 43% in the last 3 years. And that's a pretty big increase in price. Demand is still crazy. It's still crazy for condos as well. The months of inventory for a condo, I think, is 1.2 months of inventory, which means that if it goes up for sale, likely someone's going to pick it up. It's still one of the most entry-level price points, and for that reason, any first-time home buyer may look at a condo as a serious option for them because of the price points. But because of that demand, though, it's increasing prices, and it's touching almost that townhouse price as well. So what we're going to see, and what we should see, is there's going to be more activity for townhomes, just because people that have that budget are not going to understand and see that townhouse is a real option for them also. Okay, so we're going to see how that goes. At the end of the day, one of the things that I've noted when it comes to buyers is they're looking for value for their money. They've really started to adjust to the reality of the stress test. I mean, it's here to stay. I don't think that there's any indication now that it's going to be removed. So we know that we're always going to have to, when we get our mortgage approval, our purchasing power is down versus the past, because whatever rate we have, they're going to put an extra 2%. We got to get approved at that rate. So our mortgage approvals are a little bit lower, but people understand that that's the case now, and they're just really working with it. And I think what the other thing that I'm noting is that buyers are coming off the sidelines, because when they're looking at the news reports, they're seeing that prices are not declining anymore. Prices are actually rising on a consistent level. In fact, they've been doing that for the last 12 months. And so it's really, really clear now to any sort of buyer who's been on the sideline waiting for the prices to drop, that actually hasn't happened, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen over the next few months. So if you're in the market and you're that person right now that's kind of on the sideline, I would say that maybe we get to look at some mortgage approvals and see what we can do in this marketplace today. Because if you try to do it next year, likely you'll be paying for a more expensive home. Okay, so don't forget I said that. Okay. Other than that, like I've been saying throughout this video, it's looking like we're moving past the stabilization after a downturn in the housing policies back in 2016, 2017. It looks like now we're moving towards a growth phase, and we're going to see if the numbers justify that over the next few months. Right now, though, as the market, if the market remains as is, it's likely tilting towards sellers markets. And if that's the case, it's going to encourage a lot more homes to actually come to market. One of the complaints I'm getting from buyers is that, hey, I just don't like what's available, right? And people are still buying them, but they want more options. And I think that might occur over the next few months. If sellers see that, prices are rising and homes are less and less on the market, it's going to encourage them to list their properties too. So we'll see how it goes. For now, though, I want to thank you again for joining us in this video. Hopefully they're becoming more and more informational. I'm trying to do my best to provide you some good news articles below and some reports that you can download just to get yourself a little bit more informed. If you find that this is something that might be interesting to one of your friends or family, send over their email, their name, and we'll add them to the list, and they'll be able to benefit from the same things you guys do. All right. So thanks so much again. Danilo from the King Realty Group. Get in touch, guys. info@kingrealty.to. Again, 647-931-1313. If you want to really get in touch and see what's going on with us in our day-to-day, you want to definitely follow us on Instagram. We do our stories, talk about all the different new listings that we have. Sometimes we tell you about the coming soon properties that are off market for a little while before we list them on MLS. And on Facebook, etc. @King Realty TO is normally how you can find us. And look forward to connecting with you. Have a good day. Talk to you soon.